Good afternoon, my dear students. I am Dr. Deepak More, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Sanjeevanee Mahavidyalaya, Chapoli. Today, we are going to study about the remaining part of the elements of prose fiction, that is part number 2. A story is plausible when it is true to itself. Surprise, a story that never surprises us is likely to prove rather dull reading. Suspense. By suspense we mean an explicit uncertainty as to the outcome of the story. True suspense is more than a matter of not knowing how things will turn out. The suspense of which we speak involves some awareness of the possibilities and ideally some concern about them. A device to suspense is foreshadowing, mean introducing detail which hint at the direction the story is going to take. Plot and unity is plot should be clear by now that a plot that it's the description suggested in the present chapter must inevitably have unity. Any plot that has a true beginning, middle and end and that follows the jaws of plausibility, surprise and suspense must have unity. For that is all we mean by unity. Subplots is a special problem relating to unity arise in some longer work in fiction. The problem of the subplots is a sequence of events distinct at least in part from the main plot. First, the subplots may be closely related to the main plot. A second possibility is that the work principle of unity is to be found in some element other than plot, of instance in the theme. Plot as unity plot may be the single most important device making for unity in a particular story. Plot as expression. Plot is of the highest importance in expressing the meaning of a work of fiction, and it is business of plot to clarify causal relationships. Character and characterization. Point number 9. A character is an imagined person in a story whom we know from the verse we read on the page. Plot shows character. Character causes plot. In most stories, you cannot speak of the one without evoking the other. Characterization is exposition of character. We may prefer to reveal the person indirectly by showing action, that is, characterization by action or and code. Another writer shows characterization by a series of anecdotes, a telling in a summary which is common in fiction. Character is the mental, emotional and social qualities to distinguish one entity from another, that is, people, animals, spirits, autonomous pieces of furniture and other animated objects. Character develops the change that a character undergoes from the beginning of a story or to the end. Young children cannot do this. The importance of a character to the story determines how fully the character is developed. Characters can be primarily, secondarily, minor or main. We should be aware then not only of the similarities but also of the differences between fictional characters and real human beings. Character and freedom. Fictional character is never entirely free. The fictional character is part of an artistic whole and must always serve the needs of that whole. The necessity of being fitted into a satisfying artistic whole is the most important difference between the fictional character and the human being, and is the basis of all the other differences. The necessity of placing character in a unified work of art forces the author into a series of choices. Character must be considered as a part of the story's internal structure. The standard of the lifelessness is the standard of the relevance. The advantage of the relevance is that it allows the author full measure of freedom in the certain of character without denying the point of content between the character and the reader. A character is obviously relevant to us and to our experience if he is like ourselves or like others whom we know. A character is relevant if there are a lot of people like him in the real world, and it may be that the likeness is the secret of the power that great character. We have to know about the kinds of characters that appear in fiction. With regard to the kinds of characters portrayed, fictional characters are two types of general categories. Our names, these categories will be simple character and complex character. Simple or flat characters. The simple or flat character is less the presentation of a human personality than the embodiment of a single attitude or obsession in a character. Foster calls these kinds of character flat because we see only one side of him. Flat characters are less well developed and have fewer or limited traits, or belong to a group, class, or stereotype. A flat character is true representation of a person on light character also. Evaluation of character types. It is then an oversimplification to assert without qualification that the complex character is a greater achievement than the simple. If we think of character in itself, divorced from the other elements of fiction, we may place a high value on complexity. But if we examine character in the light of the story as a whole, we must see that complexity is not necessarily a greater virtue than simplicity. We must always ask what the character contributes to the story, and the author must always choose the kind of character appropriate to his overall purpose. Point number 10. Point of view. Point of view is simply who is telling the story. To determine point of view, ask who is telling the story and how much do they know. Omniscient point of view. The story is told in third person by a narrator who has unlimited knowledge of events and characters. Third person limited point of view. The story is told in third person but from the point of view of a character in the story. Point of view is limited to the character's perceptions and shows no direct knowledge of what other characters are thinking, feeling, or doing. First person point of view. The author disappears into one of the characters, shares the limitations of the third person limited, uses the pronouns I and we, second person point of view, uses the pronoun you, infrequently used. Point number 11. Conflict. Conflicts occur when the protagonist struggles against an antagonist, villain that goes against the protagonist, or opposing force. Conflict and order make plot. The author creates the conflict by describing one of the following types of interactions. Types of conflict. There are 5 basic types of conflict. In modern times, person versus machine, also noun. Person versus him or herself is the theme in literature that places a character against his or her own will, or confusion, or fears. Person versus him or herself can also be where a character tries to find out who he or she is, or comes to a realization or a change in character. Although the struggle is internal, the character can be influenced by external forces. The struggle of the human being to come to a decision is the basis of person versus him or herself. Examples include the titular character of Beowulf, more recently the Academy Award winning movie A Beautiful Mind has been poised as an application of person versus him or herself. Person versus person is a theme in literature in which the main character's conflict with another person is the focus of the story. An example is the hero's conflicts with the central villain of a work, which may play a large role in the plot and contribute to the development of both characters. There are usually several confrontations before the climax is reached. The conflict is external. An example is the conflict between Judah and Meshila in Ben Huraz, as would be the conflict between a bully and his victim. Person versus society is a theme in fiction in which a main characters or group of main characters main source of conflict is social traditions or concepts. In this sense, the two parties are the protagonists. Number 2, the society of which the protagonists are included. Society itself is often looked at a single character, just as an opposing party would be looked at in a person versus person conflict. This can also be one protagonist against a group or society of antagonists, or society led by some antagonist force. An example in literature would be Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Person versus nature is a theme in literature that places a character against forces of nature. Many disaster films focus on this theme, which is predominant within many survival stories. It is also strong in stories about struggling for survival in a remote locales, such as Gary Paulsel's Hatchet or Jack London's short story To Build a Fire. Person versus supernatural person is a theme in literature that places a character against supernatural forces. When an entity is in conflict with him or her or itself, the conflict is categorized as internal, otherwise, it is external. Such stories are often seen in Freudian criticism as representations of id versus superego. Bram Stoker's Dracula is a good example of this, as well as Frankenstein by Mary Shelley and Christabel by Samuel Coleridge. It is also very common in comic books. Then point number 12, style. Style is the manner in which an author uses words, constructs sentences, incorporates non-literal expressions, and handles rhythm, timing, and tone. When asked to discuss style, you are being asked to describe how or explain why the words, sentences, and imaginative comparisons are effective in terms of what is being created. Diction. Diction is central to an author's style. Includes number 1, vocabulary. Vocabulary is a choice of words, that is simple words, everyday words choice. She was sick for a long time, that is the simple words also, and choice of words. Then complex words and concrete words, things we can touch, see, etc. That is, for example, jeans, book, etc. Abstract words, words that express intangible ideas, freedom, heritage, and something. Then point number 2, syntax. Syntax means arrangement of words, their ordering, grouping and placement within phrases, within clauses, and within sentences. Point number 3, rhythm. The pattern of flow and movement created by the choice of words and the arrangement of phrases and sentences. Rhythm is directly affected by the length and composition of sentences, the use of pause within sentences, the use of repetition within sentences, and the use of difficulty in pronouncing the combinations of word sounds in the sentences. It is a relation of style in tone, as well as we see in this course of this chapter. The role of style in a work of fiction is an important and complex one, but none of the effect we may attribute to style is more important than its contribution to the establishment of tone. In this relationship, we may regret style as the means, tone at the end. We shall first examine the nature of the meaning of style. We must first be aware that the term style has a number of meanings. When we speak of the style, for instance, we are speaking of a literary tendency that has flourished, especially in some periods. On the hand, there are periods styles, character of one historical period, and not to be found to any significant extent in any other. By diction is meant simply the author's choice of word. Our purpose is the analysis of diction is not recognize the choices of the author has made and to infer when possible the reasons for which they have been made. The analysis of diction always leads to some considerations of the denotations and connotations of the words chosen by the author. Imagery are made of words and a single word can be an image. Furthermore, the terms image and imagery themselves like most widely used critical term. Literal images or figurative involves no necessary change or entertain in the meaning of the words. It contributes to the vivid representation of experience that we expert from the best fiction. Recurrent images consist of a number of repetitions of the same image or the frequent occurrence of image that, while not identical, the figurative images are sometimes called tropes or more commonly figures of speech. Thank you very much.